Hey there everyone, this is Rambling Collector here, and we are back with another book review today. So I have a question for you all before I begin. How many of you have heard of the name James Patterson? I'm guessing some of you have, some of you haven't, but for those of you who have, you also have your own differing opinions. You either love the guy, or you hate him. Mainly because he is known for either some of his own self-published works, or his collaborations with other authors. Me personally, I did not know anything about him, but seeing just how many works he has done in the past is absolutely insane. So I was very curious to get started, but I didn't know where to start. Luckily, my girlfriend was there to help, and she recommended one book to me to start with, that being Escape, done by James Patterson in collaboration with David Ellis. And I gotta say, after reading it, I am definitely interested to read more of Patterson's works. And the funny thing is, I found out this one here, Escape, is actually part of the Black Book series, which currently consists of 3 books, with Escape being the latest one. Now, if there ever is a 4th one, I am definitely going to be picking this up, because this one right here, as a classic cop story, was already amazingly well done. I'm going to say this right now. One thing I liked is that the chapters themselves were very short, and it made it a much easier read to follow along. Not to mention the writing style itself was very engaging. And I gotta say this now, Detective Billy Harney, his story already was fascinating. The fact that he had to deal with the loss of a child and his wife, as well as learning that his father, who had once been chief of police, was now a convicted felon locked up in a maximum security prison. And yet, he at first wanted nothing to do with his father, and yet over the course of this book, we see how he is slowly reconnecting with him in some way, shape, or form. Namely, due to the convicts that he is currently chasing down in this book. Them being Henry Arcola, a rich man who has just recently ended his own wife after she realized that he was pulling a Ponzi scheme, where he was able to pocket more money than he was giving to other people. Also, that way he could stack up on his own personal wealth. That alone is pretty twisted, if you ask me. But more than that, he was also chasing down a convicted felon who was responsible for not only trafficking young girls, which that alone is pretty messed up in its own right, but also who had been responsible for murdering Billy Harney's partner that we had seen at the start of the book, only for her to tragically die after a building blows up and a chunk of debris falls on top of her, essentially crushing everything from the neck down. Which, the imagery of that? Jesus. That alone actually spooked me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, because imagining somebody getting crushed from the neck down to where they are just nothing more than pulp beneath that rubble is terrifying, not gonna lie. But I will say I liked Billy's story. I liked how Henry was his personal enemy here. Not just the convict who had gotten away, whom he eventually did catch. But over the course of this book, we see how he has to compensate and deal with skeletons in the closet that keep on being pulled out. For instance, he actually finds out that his wife, whom he loved dearly, was actually cheating on him with Henry. And that apparently they had been a one-night stand at one point. And from what Henry was bragging about, it about nearly tipped Billy over the edge to the point that he was about to execute this man. And I would not have blamed him at that point. Because you've been faithful to your wife for years. And then you find out that she was cheating on you with this rich, bureaucratic individual who is a very sick psychopath. And you find this out after she is dead and after your child is dead. That's kind of messed up when you ask me. But more than that, I liked how the entire time at first he's tracking down this guy, trying to find the killer of his partner that he'd been working with, only to then be reassigned to a task force to take down a massive gang. I believe it was the Imperial Gangster Nation, if I remember this correctly. And seeing how he is tactically trying to take these guys down, even taking advice from his convict of a father who keeps on calling him, offering really good advice, such as the first one, follow the money. Which, of course, that's always going to work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Let's face that in real life. But it always is one of the biggest ways to track down a killer and get some dirt on them. And I liked how, once again, the chapters were very, very short, mainly consisting of about 5 pages or more to a chapter, therefore making it far more engaging over the course of the story. And I will say, I liked how over the course of it we also got different perspectives of different characters. Sometimes we would have Henry, most of the time we would have Billy. Other times we would have members of the Imperial Gangster Nation, run by, I believe it was Jericho, if I remember correctly, the leader's name. We even got some of his perspective, but also some of his cronies, those who worked for him. And once again, this was just a really good cop story, I'm not going to lie. And not to mention the fact that it's about, let me see here if I remember this correctly. Let me see here, 1 second. 422 pages. That isn't bad, all things considered, for a book about this size, and in a very compact paperback, I must say. Now, if you were to ask me, would I get these in hardback? I would say yes. Though I am curious to see more of James Patterson's works. I know that my girlfriend has recommended the standalone novel of Postcard Killers, and I've even seen a series in a thrift store, or at least a library, that I would want to get my hands on. And I gotta say, I'm actually very curious to dive down into the James Patterson rabbit hole, which, let me just say this right now. My girlfriend. She always manages to put me into the rabbit holes, I swear to God. Because first it was the One Piece rabbit hole, which I am currently descending down into. And if you're curious, I am currently close to the 400s in episode-wise for One Piece. Not only that, but she has also introduced me to things such as the Alpha Omega series, which that alone is going to be fun because I'm a big sucker for any good werewolf stories, which I've reviewed in the past and I have seen. But not only that, she really helps me to get reinvigorated for vampires. I remember diving down that rabbit hole by reading and reviewing both Carmilla and Dracula. I'm sorry if this is a rant about now, but I just gotta say, my girlfriend knows me. She knows how to find me a good story. I'm gonna say that right now. And I'm gonna say this again. James Patterson. She is a massive fan of his works. She has recommended quite a few books of his to me, Postcard Killers being one of them, but quite a few others as well. Black Book, however, is definitely going to be one that I'm going to be pursuing more of, because I am very curious to read more about Billy Harney. He was actually a really good character. He has his own struggles, his own deals with romance, and for instance, he is still hung up on his wife, but over the course of this novel, we see that he is wanting to pursue a new relationship with this bartender that he meets in what they call the Hole, where a lot of Chicago's police officers go to hang out, get drunk, and try to leave behind the workload that they are doing, some of the convict cases that they are pursuing. And I liked how, throughout it all, it wasn't just focused on the police work. There was focuses on their lives, some of their own personal motifs, or even just them trying to live their life, trying to balance out work and life, because considering the type of work that they do, where they investigate murderers, criminals, others of all sorts, it was really nice to see that throughout it all, they weren't just cops on business. They also had lives. They had their own faults that they had to work through. For instance, Billy has a very quick hair-trigger temper when he wants to, and that is a major character flaw that I've noticed that he has had to overcome, not to mention the personal baggage of his father, which, spoiler warning here, he comes to find out in the last pages of the book that apparently his father has broken out of a maximum security prison. That alone is sending alarm bells into my head, and I'm wondering, okay, is this next book going to be about him pursuing his father, and what is he going to do when he catches him? I am genuinely curious to see how he's going to deal with this type of particular baggage. Not only that, but the main premise of Escape isn't even just catching these guys. It's trying to keep them locked up in prison, because by the time they get them locked up, they're already trying to advocate for their freedom. And they actually conduct a really genius level plot to escape from this maximum security prison and they do so very, very well. Henry about nearly gets away until Billy is able to catch him. And the chase alone was insane. We kept flashing back and forth between Billy in the helicopter and Henry Arcola trying to race down the roads trying to get to his escape chopper, despite knowing that he had 20 million that was hacked away from him and he had just received it, only to then get played by the money launderer by having it be in pesos, not American dollars. And I gotta say, that was a brilliant twist, and I loved it. Honestly, though, once again, I'm very curious to check out more of Patterson's works, and I'm really glad that I finally got the chance to read some of his work with Escape. And if you are genuinely curious, or if you have any James Patterson novels that you would recommend to me, besides this particular series, please, feel free to let me know. I am more than willing to take any suggestions for any major series, especially when it comes to this guy, because I know diving into him is going to be a really big rabbit hole. I'm not even kidding myself with that either. I know it's going to be a major rabbit hole. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for listening to this crazy man's ramblings. It really means a lot to me if you stuck around to the end of this video. And if you liked, feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts on this review down below, or subscribe if you're interested in more of what I do. And once again, thank you so much for listening. It really means a lot. And like I said, if you have any book suggestions or if you are a self-published author trying to get your works out there, please feel free to let me know. I am more than willing to hear you out and at least give your books a try. Or if you have any good suggestions, I will feel free to look into those as well. There's quite a few out there who have made suggestions that I still need to catch up on. I'm not even kidding. Oh boy, I'm going to be reading to the end of my days. Anyways, once again, thank you so much for listening. This is Rambling Collector, signing off for now. Have a great day, fellow readers.